In a small village on the edge of the desert, where green valleys stretched and embraced the golden dunes, lived a beautiful young woman named Ruba. She was 30 years old, with a face like the moon and eyes that revealed much of what her heart concealed. All the young men of the village sought her hand, longing for her acceptance, but Ruba refused them all. She would retreat into silence, her gaze always drifting toward the green valley on the far side of the village. Every morning, a fair-skinned boy with a radiant face named Malik would go out to tend his family's sheep. He was no more than 12 years old, with eyes that sparkled with innocence, running among the grass like a butterfly unaware of danger. Ruba would hide herself among the trees, watching him in silence. She followed his steps, his laughter, even his careless moments, with a heart that loved but could not confess. Sometimes she would approach him, helping him gather the sheep, and sometimes she played with him as though she were his elder sister, laughing at his laughter, placing her hand on his hair, whispering, "You don't know, but you are my destiny." Malik never understood, for he still lived in the world of childhood, chasing after a stray ewe or drawing shapes in the dirt with his stick. But Ruba lived a bitter inner struggle, torn between what she felt and what reason, people, and faith demanded of her. Yet she could not restrain her emotions. Every night she dreamed of him grown into a knight, coming to ask for her hand, lifting her onto his horse, carrying her away to a world where no one questioned the difference in age or the logic of lovers. One day, as she watched him from afar while he grazed his sheep at the edge of the valley, she saw him wander slowly toward a dense patch of strange-looking trees he had never approached before. He stopped there, cutting some dry branches to throw to the sheep. Innocent, he did not know that this land was unlike any other. Suddenly, a deep, rumbling voice like a roaring wind cried out, "Who dares cut our trees?" Malik froze in place, his eyes wide, his stick falling from his hand. He stepped back in fear, then kicked the ground and shouted at the sheep, "Go! Go!" He began to run, the flock following him, while the voice pursued him. "You shall not pass unpunished. The earth will not forgive your deed." The trees whispered. The air grew heavy, and the sky darkened. The boy ran until his clothes tore, and at last he collapsed unconscious on the grass, the sheep circling around him, bewildered at what had befallen their young master. Ruba saw him and rushed from her hiding place. She ran to him, knelt beside him, calling, "Malik!" "Malik, open your eyes, I'm here." He did not respond. She sprinkled water on him, shook him, held him against her chest, weeping and whispering, "Malik, you are everything. Don't leave me." The boy, still unconscious, muttered strange words. "I won't return. I won't return to the valley. I won't cut the trees. Forgive me." Ruba trembled, realizing what had struck him was no ordinary thing. With all her strength, she carried him and slipped away to an abandoned house high in the mountains, a place she had known since childhood. She laid him on a bed, sat beside him, holding his hand, tracing his features, whispering to herself, "Even if you are asleep, you are here beside me." And she closed her eyes, drifting into sleep next to him, while a fire burned endlessly in her heart. Hours later, Malik awoke from his faint. He opened his eyes slowly, his head pounding, his body weak, his clothes torn. Looking around, he saw stone walls blackened with soot and a dim lamp flickering on the ceiling of a strange hut. Then he noticed a woman sitting beside him, her features unfamiliar, her hair dark and braided, her skin dusky, her face blurred as though not entirely human. He lifted his head and whispered faintly, "Who are you? Where am I?" Ruba smiled, her voice calm and mysterious, her tone altered. "I am from another world. We are the guardians of the trees. You cut our branches, boy, and angered the spirits of the valley." Malik recoiled slightly, whispering, "I didn't mean to. I was only feeding my sheep." She rose to her feet and said coldly, "Intentions do not change the outcome. Judgment has been passed upon you." The boy fell silent, then asked fearfully, "What is the judgment?" She leaned close and whispered, "That you remain here, in this place, alone, until you atone for your sin." He cried out, No. Please let me return to my mother. I promise I will never go back to the valley, she answered sternly. A promise is not enough after a mistake. Your memory bears witness against you. Then she shut the door and left him alone in the wooden hut, unreachable by human feet. Outside, Ruba removed her disguise, wiped the dark paint from her face, let her hair fall loose, and returned to her true form. She descended the mountain, her hands trembling with fear and confusion. When she reached the village, she found the people in turmoil, searching everywhere for Malik, in every valley, every field, every house and corner. His mother cried out among them, "My son went out and never returned. He never leaves the sheep. Where has he gone?" Ruba joined their act, feigning shock and worry. She even raised her voice, saying, "I will go search for him too. Perhaps he lost his way." But Malik's mother had a heart that could not be deceived. She had noticed before how her son's eyes lingered on Ruba, how he often spoke of her laughter, her help, her strange care for him. Troubled, she went to the judge and complained, "My lord, that woman always followed my son. He told me he loved her, and she shadowed him wherever he went. I do not trust her." The judge ordered that Ruba be summoned before the council. She appeared outwardly composed, but her eyes betrayed her, darting away. He asked her where she had been the night the boy disappeared. She faltered, stammered, unable to answer. The judge raised his hand and ordered her imprisoned until she confessed. In the cell, Ruba sat on the ground, her face despairing, her tears silent. She thought of Malik, whom she had left in the mountain hut, without enough water, without much food. Was fear devouring him? Was hunger gnawing at him? Would he hate her if he ever learned the truth? She considered confessing, but if she did, the punishment would be severe. Society would never forgive a woman who loved a boy. Yet if she stayed silent, the boy she loved more than herself might die. Outside, the judge ordered his men, along with Malik's mother, to search the valley. When they arrived, they saw the trees strangely cut, as though by an invisible tool. Then they spotted a torn piece of cloth hanging from a branch. Malik's mother cried out, "This is from my son's clothes!" The men searched further, but before they could enter the deeper grove, a sharp, eerie voice rang out from every direction. "Go back, or you will become captives like the others." Terrified, the men fled back and told the judge, "The place is haunted, my lord." We saw the trees speak, and the voice threatened us. The judge then declared officially that the boy was a prisoner of the Jinn, and he ordered Ruba's release. She left the prison, but instead of going home, she went straight to the mountain, where Malik still waited in the hut. She opened the door slowly. Malik was sitting in the corner, his face pale, his features sorrowful. He rose as soon as he saw her and said in a weary voice, "Will you take me to my mother? I promised you I would never cut your trees again. Please." But Ruba, wearing the guise of a jinnia, her features disguised, eyes darkened with kohl, hair dyed silver, her voice calm and strange, answered, "The court of the Jinn has convened and issued a judgment that cannot be undone." Malik looked at her in fear. "Judgment? What judgment?" She said, "The judgment is that you must marry one of the daughters of the Jinn and come to her every night in this hut, without telling anyone. If you disobey, the consequences will be dire." Silence fell. Then Malik lifted his gaze toward her and asked quietly, "And will you be that girl?" The words froze in Ruba's mouth. She had not expected this question. She feared her true voice might slip out, that her feelings might betray her. But she nodded and said, "Yes, I will be your wife from our world." Malik smiled faintly, innocently. "If this will save me, then I agree. Only let me return to my mother. I will come back every night as you ask." She looked at him for a long time, her heart screaming within her. She longed to embrace him, to tell him she was Ruba, the woman who had loved him since he was a child. But fear was stronger than longing. The next day, Malik left the hut and returned to the village. His people welcomed him with tears of joy. His mother embraced him, weeping. "Where were you?" "What did they do to you?" Malik said. I am fine. I was with the Jinn. I made a mistake when I cut the trees, but they forgave me on the condition that I visit them every night to atone for my sin. The people were astonished, but they believed him. Everyone had heard the voices in the valley, seen the cut trees, heard the warnings. And so, from that night on, Malik would secretly leave his home after sunset, climb the mountain, and sit in the hut where his Jinniya wife awaited him, who was none other than Ruba. Every night she prepared his food, washed his clothes, spoke with him, and sat beside him as a wife would. He saw her as a strange being, treating her with kindness, respect, and a fear mingled with innocent affection. The years passed. Malik grew into a tall young man, broad-shouldered, with the marks of manhood etched upon his face. Ruba remained beautiful, but she had grown quieter, more anxious. She feared the moment of truth. One night, as she combed her hair before him while he sat on the floor recounting village news, he suddenly looked at her and said, "May I ask you something?" She answered softly, "Ask." He smiled. "For about a year now I've begun to suspect. You are not of the Jinn. Your voice is not strange to me, and your eyes, they resemble the eyes of a girl I once knew in my childhood." Ruba froze, her hand trembling, but she did not reply. Malik continued in a near whisper, "I knew, but I said nothing, because you were carrying a child." Ruba lowered her head, tears streaming silently down her face, unable to speak. He moved closer, placing his hand on her shoulder. "I was afraid for the child, afraid to leave you both alone. But now it is time for me to choose my path." She looked at him, her eyes brimming with tears. "You will leave? You will take your son and abandon me?" Malik laughed, a mature laugh unlike all his boyish laughter before. "I will leave, but with you. I will never abandon you nor our son. We will all go together and begin a new life, without masks, without Jinn, without fear." Ruba collapsed into his embrace, weeping like a child. "Love does what it wills, but fate does what it wants." He laughed and said, "Then let love and fate be together."